Hi everyone, just a quick video here discussing ICND2 exam which I took today and I passed with a score of 860 out of 1,000, which I'm very rapt about. Some of you may say that's not a great score, but a pass is a pass with the Cisco exam. I will be honest, I did just record, or didn't record, this entire video without hitting record. So this is actually the second time I'm running through this, so hopefully it'll be a bit better this time. I've got less interruptions. If you see me looking around the screen, that's just me looking at my notes. Okay, first up, some of you may say the new ICND2 and ICND1 are here, can't do the old exams anymore, your video is going to be irrelevant. Be that as it may, I'm going to go through a few things because while the topics are changing and new stuff is coming into the curriculum, all the old stuff is still there, and a lot of it only really just got shifted around. So firstly, topics removed from ICND2 and placed into ICND1 now, NAT and PAT, VLSM, and RAD on a stick, which is just communication between VLANs. So again, these haven't been removed from the curriculum, they've just been moved downwards, into your CCENT or ICND1, making that, I think, much harder to achieve, because not only in ICND1 do you have to grasp the basic concepts of what a network is and how ARP works and Ethernet and how it all came to be, and IP and TCP and all of that. Not only do you have to grasp that, you also have to learn all these other new topics. VLSM is a big one that gets a lot of people, and that's going to be hard for a first-year student to attempt that. Same with NAT and PAT, the inside global and outside global. These concepts are harder to grasp without having that labbing experience of a year or so. I'm not saying it can't be done, I'm just saying it's going to be more difficult to achieve your CCENT, which is, I think, what Cisco were going for. I think their whole idea was to not only make it harder to achieve your CCENT, because basically what happened was Cisco takes these surveys all the time with their students. Even at the exam today, I had a survey at the end asking if I was, happy with everything. Basically, they found that people were getting the CCNA and just stopping. They were just stopping. They were saying, "That's all I need to get into the workforce. I'll just get my CCNA and that's it." So they've made CCNA much harder. Probably not to the equivalent of the current ICND2, but still definitely a lot harder. I think another reason why they did that is so you can branch off earlier. So you can do your CCENT and then branch off into security, branch off into voice, or design associates, or any of the flavors of Cisco. So that in mind, because currently you'd have to get your CCNA before you can attempt those other exams, to my knowledge. So topics added to ICND2, again, I'm just looking around at my notes here, so don't mind me. So topics added to ICND2, Ether channel, which is a switching thing normally. Basically just bundling two or more links into one fat pipe for more bandwidth. You're trading bandwidth for redundancy, or other way around, sorry, redundancy for bandwidth. So let's say I had 200 megabit links, combine them into one 200 megabit link. Now I'm not an expert in it because it's not in this current curriculum. I have played around with it on my switches, which you can see behind me there, just there, or other way, yeah, just there, the switches there. I've got four 2950s, yeah, 2950s, which I've played around a lot with Spanning Tree, and I have tried Ether channel. It's a bit of fun, and then just generating some large payloads, just a basic Linux distro, I mean to Ubuntu or even backtrack. So topic, anyway, I'm blabbering now. Multi-area OSPF has also been added to the ICMD2. I have done a bit of CCNP before, so I do understand that this is a big topic. This is a big change to put into ICMD2, mainly because just the complexity required when you're dealing with more than one area of OSPF. Right now, we're dealing with just one area 0, the backbone, which is quite easy to manage, and it's just easy to implement OSPF. Also, quite easy to troubleshoot as long as the hello and dead times are the same, and your IP addressing. That's basically going to be the gist of your troubleshooting, even in the exam today. Snmp, Syslog, and NetFlow monitoring programs. I do remember doing a few labs with Syslog. I can't remember if it was in my CCNA class or if it was in my security class. I'm not sure. But I do remember that was a question on my exam today. So it has to be in that curriculum somewhere already. It's on the added topics, but that was already in there. That was on the exam today. I can tell you that 100%. How do you enable logging to a Syslog server? And that was one of the questions. Just logging and then the IP address, by the way. Cisco licensing. So Cisco's going down the route, see what I did there, of licensing. This is to my knowledge anyway, again, individual licenses for iOS's, routers, what have you. So basically requiring you to have a license for each iOS that you own. As you know, that's where Cisco makes their money. It's part of the service they sell you when they sell you these routers and switches. You get the iOS normally bundled with it. So they're the topics that's being added, and that's why I think that my video is still relevant, because NAT and PAT, VLSM, router on a stick, while they're getting removed from ICMD2, they're still going to be in ICMD1. So regardless, you're still going to have to study them. And as for the topics added, Ether channel, like I said, I already played around with that. They're probably going to go into it in a lot more depth of how it actually works, rather than me just saying you're bundling. It is, in essence, bundling links together for more bandwidth. Multi-area OSPF. I'm going over the topics again, sorry. So there's probably really only two brand new concepts here, which is the Cisco licensing, which is Cisco pimping their own stuff again. Multi-area OSPF, which was a CCNP topic, is now in CCNA, the ICMD2. While it is difficult, I don't think it's too much extra to put in to the exam. But I think the real struggle here is going to be people doing their ICMD1. All these new concepts that someone hasn't seen before, crammed into one early on exam. And let me tell you, ICMD1 was tough. ICMD1 was tough. It's basic network Ethernet concepts, but it was tough for me. It was quite tough. And I only just passed that one. I did better in ICMD2 than ICMD1. Obviously, I had a better grasp of networking and that by now, but I still found ICMD1 more difficult. So in the test today, again, I know this is probably not going to be valid, but I can guarantee you Cisco's going to reuse some of these questions, guys. Just add it to their pool. So mine was very heavy on IPv6, very heavy on IPv6. I would recommend learning all the different kinds, the unicast addresses, the global addresses, Anycast, how Anycast works, and the router advertisements and all that. Learn these, memorize these, site local, link local, FEC0, site local, FE80, link local. Remember these. You have to remember these, because I had about 5 of these questions on my exam, and I'm just so glad that I revised these and remember these. Something that I didn't see on my exam, which I can't say I was annoyed, but I really put a lot of time into memorizing multicast addresses. So all the multicast addresses for OSPF, RIP, EIGRP, not once did that come up in my exam. And I actually spent a bit of time just, covering, remembering, reading it off the top of my head, just reciting what these multicast addresses were, and they didn't come up once in my exam. VLSM, excuse me, VLSM was a big part in this exam. Not to the point where they're going to just throw questions at you like, oh, we need 30 hosts here and 50 hosts here and 120 hosts here. What would you do to utilize the best address space with the least wastage? You might get 1 or 2 of them. I did, but that was easy, because I literally, because it was a multiple choice. Sorry, not multiple choice. It was actually drag and drop, but the options I had to choose from had slash notations, and I could tell that, if it said 30 hosts, well, I'm going to have a /27, aren't I? Just check that. Yeah, /27, which would give me block size of 32. So I knew that was the right one, and that was the only /27 there. So that had to be the one. So that was quite easy. But when I say heavy VLSM, I mean each and every question just about had partly a VLSM component to it. It might be a router config that's displaying the address in slash notation, and it might say, well, why can't host A, connect to host B on corporate network over the cloud or something like that. And a lot of the time, it would be that the IP address of the host would be the network address or the broadcast address, and you start doing VLSM in your head, and that's what I'm going to tell you. If you can't do it in under a minute, don't take the exam, because you need to be able to do that. You need to just pop. You need to be able to see those slash notations and be able to say, yep, there's 30 hosts in there, there's 62 hosts in there, 126 in there. You just need to be able to see those slash notations and go, yep, that's that. Fighting the clock. I don't know if Cisco based the time on the amount of questions they give you. I had 45 questions and I only had an hour and 15 minutes. Now, in all my practice exams, I had an hour and 30 minutes, 90 minutes. So probably from question 30 onwards, I was under the pump, and I basically had to, you got to pace yourself, and you basically got to say, well, I've got this much time left. If I can't, get an answer out of this question within 2 minutes, I just got to hazard a guess. Like, if I haven't finished working it out, like, again, the VLSM comes into it again. Like, if I haven't finished working out all these VLSMs, I just got to go with what I think. And that's another tip I'll give you, because you can't go back in these exams. So go with your gut. It's generally the first answer that comes to you is going to be the correct answer. I only had one real configuration part. I think it's called Simlets. Don't quote me on that. That was quite easy. I practiced all these frame relay labs, and OSPF and EIGRP. They're fairly simple. They're literally just network commands, aren't they? Really, unless you're rigging elections and whatnot. They're fairly simple. I didn't have any NAT configuration to do either. Lots of questions on that, just the syntax of it. So you need to know that. You need to know your IP NAT pool and what the access list does in that command. You need to know it. So do a bunch of NAT labs if you have to. All kinds, static, dynamic, and pattern or overloading. You need to know it. There was heaps of questions, and they expected you to know it in the exam. Going back to the simlets, to my knowledge, again, the thing with the simlets is if you only get part of it right, it's not right. So I'll give you an example. In my simlet, I had to basically set up a new switch, put it on the VTP domain that switch one was on, make it a client, and chuck the default gateway on there, and also assign the native VLAN interface VLAN 1 the next usable IP address in the management IP range. So you go on the first switch, and I literally just did show run, and that basically gave me all the information I needed to configure the next switch. Obviously the show VTP stat command as well. With the commands on the simlets, help is there, so you can, I don't like to say wing it, but if you're stuck, use the question mark, because it's there. Not all the commands will show up, but obviously the commands that you need to do the sim are going to be there in that help command. So if in that situation, say you didn't know how to show the VTP information, you could literally do show question mark, and then you'd see in the list VTP. I need VTP. So what's next? Status stat. You know, it's not as hard as I thought that part would be. Again, I did a whole bunch of labs, a whole bunch of packet traces on preparing for this, and I didn't even need it. It gave me a better understanding, and I think it did help me answer a few of the NAT questions, especially. Do you know NAT? That's a big thing. So a few tips for the exam: arrive early. This is my usual testing center. My usual testing center is at my TAFE that I go to. The fully accredited Pearson VUE testing center. The one I went to today, the reason I went there is because that was the only place left that was doing exams on September 30. So basically, I literally went into the waiting room, guy called my name, dumped my stuff in a locker, you know, signature, all that stuff. Same with the CSN. But then he leads me into this room, and it's literally a big room with computers on either side up against the wall, and it is dead silent, absolutely dead silent. And silence is deafening, as they say. Like it was really bad, just nerve-wise, and that's going to be one of your biggest enemies in these exams. Is going to be your nerves, because when you're in there and you're like, this is it, you know, this is crunch time, pass or fail. So, but the thing you got to remember is it's not the end of the world if you fail these, because you can do them again. You can do these again. You got the money, you can do as many times as you like. I'm sure they limit you after a while, but theoretically, if you got the money, take the exam again. You know. That's another thing. So at the start of the exam, you get 15 minutes. If anyone hasn't done these exams before, you get 15 minutes at the start of the actual exam. This is why you're sitting down at your little cubicle. You get 15 minutes, and they go through a tutorial, like the different kinds of questions you're going to get, simlets, the testlets, what all of them are. And so we've seen it before, don't skip it. Even if you don't read what the tutorials are, use that time, because you've got 15 minutes. 15 whole extra minutes. Prepare yourself. Get in the zone, whatever you do. Excuse me. Just prepare yourself. Calm yourself. That's what I did. I had to calm myself, because my heart was racing. Like, I was really nervous. I really wanted to pass. And I did, so I am grateful for the study I put in. But what I do at the start of these exams, when I see these tutorials, so when you go in, you get a little bit of laminate paper and just a whiteboard marker. So what I do is I write anything that I'm going to forget. I didn't this time because I had it down. Like, I was quite confident going into this one. So anything it's just on the top of your head that you just need reassuring, like, you know, spanning tree, the lowest MAC wins, the lowest priority wins, but OSPF the highest wins, and that always got me too. Write that down. You got 15 minutes, write whatever you like. Right, I'm going to pass this if you want to reassure yourself. But no, really, what I do is I always go in, I write my binary placements, so I do like 128, 64, 32, you know the drill, across the tops, just so I don't have to, you know, use my fingers, or that's what I do when I do subnetting, by the way, use my fingers. And then on the right, I write down my subnet blocks. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up, because this, I believe, is one of the easiest ways to subnet. So as long as you can remember these numbers, you've got 128, 192, 224, 240, 248, 252. And if you can remember those numbers, you can do subnetting. You can subnet anything, because your block sizes are literally 256 minus those numbers. I'll give you an example. So if I had, I'm just getting a little tutorial now. So if I had a /25, which would be 128, which is what I said, 128, 192, 224, remember. So what's 256 minus 128? 128. Minus the other two for the network and the broadcast, 126. It's really that simple. Like, if you can remember those numbers, you can subnet anything, even if you're not good at maths. I'm not good at maths, and it's really easy, guys. But I will emphasize that a lot. If you can't subnet in under a minute, you probably don't have a chance. Like, just learn to subnet, get it down. You don't have to be great at binary, hex at all. I had nothing to do with hex, which I'm grateful for, because I'm not great at it. Pace yourself is my final tip. Definitely pace yourself, because you can't go back in these exams. I've probably already said that. You can't go back. And I'm not sure if the time correlates to the amount of questions you have, but basically it got to a point with me where I had to just hammer through the last couple of questions, and honestly, if I had another similar at, like, say, question 40, I would have been in a lot of trouble. Depending on which one it was, of course. If it was just show CDP neighbors command or something like that, I would have been fine. But if it was, say, a big one, like a frame relay one, I probably would have been in a bit of trouble, just because I'm pedantic and I wanted to make sure it's 100% working before I click that next button. Because, like I said, you can't go back. That's my cat in the background. I think that's pretty much it, guys. Hopefully I've bestowed some knowledge and some insight and some tips for you to pass your exam. Things to walk away from this video with are the new exams are tough, but there's only a couple extra subjects in there. So if you're in that boat, like I was lucky enough to pass today, but if you're in that boat, and you've just gone through the Network Academy, NetAcad, and you've studied the old curriculum, and you're like, oh, what have I done that for? You know, how am I going to get my cert now? They're bringing this new exam. What am I going to do? It's really only a couple of extra topics, and you can do it. And I think, I'm not going to say that it'll be easier, but I think Cisco will do the exams in a way that makes them accessible to those sort of students. So if you already know these concepts, you know these topics down, they're going to be lenient in that way, I think. So if they're going to give you those questions plus a couple of the new topics. Remember, it's only 40 to 55, maybe 60 questions you can get with a couple of simulates and testlets in between. You can do it, guys. It's very accessible. Again, I hope this has been informative, and thanks for watching.